Second Amendment remedies. Second Amendment as in Second Amendment. Americans are going to shoot our way out of the political problems that we have with the Congress. And that wasn't just a one-off unfortunate turn of phrase that she said in that one interview. This was a big part of her campaign. She said this stuff all the time. For example, she told the Reno Gazette-Journal in May of that year, quote, "The nation is arming. What are they arming for if it isn't that they are so distrustful with their government? They're afraid they will have to fight for their liberty in more Second Amendment kinds of ways." That's why I look at this as almost an imperative. If we don't win at the ballot box, what will be the next step? So that's how she explained why she was running against Harry Reid, why she thought it was imperative that she unseat Harry Reid in the United States Senate. Because if Americans with guns did not succeed in voting Harry Reid out of office, they would turn to another way of doing it. They would use their guns to get their way instead.
There's a really good reason why certain self-important, self-righteous, bloated, and blowhard talkers on cable television continue to bluster and wallow across the landscape while their ratings drop faster than the test IQ of people strapped to chairs and forced to watch 30 seconds of Here Comes Honey Boo Boo reruns. First, because their management remains desperate to prove they know what the American people want to watch and hear from their political opinionators, when in reality they read their audience about as well as several recent NFL stars read the conduct policy in their contracts. Second is, hey, just because. They can say whatever they want, whenever they want, supposedly safe in the knowledge they can spit out partisan pablum to what remains of their audience, and the dumb as wet dirt audience will fall for it. In this case, we have a comment from April of 2013, attacking away at what the individual behind the desk sees as threats from a politician on the right to enrage their base, to head on out and shoot up the opposition to those darned elections if they don't go our way. What we have here, to paraphrase the late great Strother Martin, is a failure to evenly communicate. The smarmy host here was on another factually deficit rant of irrational reasoning, desperately seeking to make a connection that will slap away at Republicans no matter the reality of a situation. Of course, when a real threat rears its left-leaning head, don't look for those to be shockingly missed. Prior to this week's midterms, voters in New York were sent a letter from the New York State Democratic Committee, a letter the committee admitted they crafted and sent. And what a shock it didn't get a tremendous amount of attention outside of New York City.
The New York State Democratic Committee sent this letter to registered voters who don't usually vote in off-year elections. 26-year-old Joseph Frewer got one.
Feels like you're being bullied into voting.
The letter starts, "Who you vote for is your secret, but whether or not you vote is public record." It continues, "If you do not vote this year, we will be interested to hear why not."
I'm already going to vote Democratic, most likely. This just makes me feel like you're bossing me around and makes me less likely to want to.
Reaction on Twitter to the flyer has been mixed. One man wrote, "I won't vote this year because I got one of these." But another said this is pretty tame social pressure. Baruch College's public affairs dean David Birdsell says both parties want to increase voter turnout. The question is how to do it effectively.
Usually it's frightening people about the prospect of a victory for the other party. If you don't get out there, it's very unusual to threaten people with surveillance and follow-up.
If you do not vote this year, we will be interested to hear why not. Just exactly the kind of warm, close-knit family manner with which one wants to convince voters it's this way or the highway. About the only thing missing in this letter was the accompanying delivery of a severed horse's head to each home, or offering to send each person out in a two-man rowboat as they wonder why the other guy is carrying a sawed-off shotgun instead of a rod and reel. Though I can only guess the committee in this case would convince them it's the new and more efficient way to bag that big fish. Democrats are just as threatening as anybody else when it comes to voting for their candidate. They just do a better job of snow jobbing everybody how warm and fuzzy they are in comparison to those evil gun-toting Republicans. Hey, better be careful, Rachel. America's on to you, and they're on to the fact you and your side can be just as duplicitous and lie just as easily as anybody else. Hey, check the election results from last night, in case you disagree. That's telling it like it is. We question everything. Stay with us right here, because on the Newsmax Network, MidPoint continues.